Welcome back everyone to our gameplay series of Transport Fever 2. And in today's video, we need to do a little bit of expansion, I believe, down here by Yonkers. So where we left off last time was setting up our train route and just trying to see if we had indeed gotten enough capacity or maybe even too much capacity in our train here. So you can see it's going to be somewhere around 30 once again as our train is headed back. So about half of our full capacity. And I think I may know one of the reasons why. If we come down and take a look at our brick route, this is certainly not meeting our delivery standards. We have a huge backlog that is sitting here waiting to be taken advantage of. And if we come over to Yonkers, we can see we're only about 50% of this goal. So we have a huge amount of growth potential, even with where the city is right now. So I want to do a couple of things here. First and foremost, I want to see if we can get a little closer. Obviously, this placement worked out well when we were using vehicles for this entire route. Let's go ahead and get rid of this one while I'm thinking about it. But now we could stand to put this thing much closer here. That will take probably a few days of journey, maybe even up to a week. You can see, especially at these speeds and how quickly time flies. So let's see if we can get by with that without causing too much disruption. All right, so how far will this let us go? Pretty far, actually. So we won't push the limit to the extreme. But what I do want to have happen is let's come into our line. All right, let's add a station. We're going to add this one and get rid of that one. So we just exchanged these two out, and that should be perfectly fine. Let's see now if everything starts to drop in here. It should, but we'll give it a minute just to make sure that that indeed does happen. But as far as I can tell, everything should be fine. All right, let's go ahead and get rid of this one because we definitely want to make this change. All right, the other thing I want to do is, there we go. You see some bricks starting to pop in there. All right, so our vehicle manager tells us that this particular route has 10 vehicles on it. And of course, they are the horse and carriage. And it also will tell us that we have a capacity of 40 right now and a frequency of around 100 seconds, making a little bit of money. So it's certainly not hurting our finances, but it's not helping them either. The first thing I want to do is come in and expand our capacity a little bit because we have tons of room and it is very inexpensive to do so. If we check our factory right now, production is maxed at 100. So obviously we're going to want to upgrade that. And the way we upgrade that is continue to press the issue as far as our routes. As long as the demand is there with any cities that we're delivering to, then we should be in good shape. So let's come back to our vehicles. And first and foremost, we're going to simply do a complete upgrade. So we're going to replace all 10 of them. You can see they're already highlighted. And for that, we're going to go back to our steam truck, which is going to give us more capacity and quicker speeds. So we go ahead and replace that. And then we'll come back into our statistics. And already you can see our frequency is down to 85. That is a huge difference. And what that should mean is that we're able to not only carry more over to Yonkers, is that we've made the entire process quicker. So that should spur more growth. But as always, we'll keep an eye on it. All right, so already you can see this is starting to grow, and we'll keep an eye on that. The other thing I want to come in and do is what we were looking at last time with our food over at Surprise. So at Surprise, we had run into sort of the end of the road, and I believe we've maxed production. I mean, you can see this is maxed out at 200, so we can't get any more wheat out of this. Honestly, I thought there was more room for growth there, not necessarily in the 200 number we saw, but as far as how much that was actually going to deliver to us. Could be any number of factors that are keeping us from that, but the main thing is we're sort of maxed out. However, Our food plant is certainly not maxed out. It has plenty of room for growth. It can go all the way up to 400. So right now we're nowhere near that. So we're going to push the issue some. And the way we're going to do that is just like we talked about last time, we are going to add a train network through this area. Now, I do not want to get rid of any of these fields. That's my one caveat to this entire process, is that we do not want to do that. All right, I'm going to try to make sure I get this as straight as I possibly can. About right there would be perfect. All right, now can we connect that on? Okay, we can. So that definitely connects on. I'm going to get it as far back as this thing will let me. That's probably about it right there. Okay, that's a pretty good orientation. Now, one thing the game does not let you do is it doesn't let you zoom very far out before it starts telling you you can't place things when you're that zoomed out. All right, so right here, I think that's pretty good. Let's see. Okay, yeah, that should be just fine. And then in this case, there's really nothing in between them, so we can just simply make one long strand. And there you can see the speed is maxed out the entire way. That'll be important later on in the game as we get higher speed trains and higher speed tracks. Okay, now we need to connect this with a street. Since I didn't quite get it close enough to do so, let's see. If we come in like right here. Nope, the angle is not good. All right, so what about that? Yes, okay, that's got us fully highlighted. So we are in good shape. All right, I like that. Now, obviously, one thing that this would have meant is that we didn't, had we not used a terminus station here, we could have just used a normal station and continued this on as one continuous line. But at the time, we didn't know we were going to do this, and I got a little happy doing terminus stations. So that has come back to bite us a little bit. But overall, we're playing on easy mode. It's not really a big deal, and that's one of the reasons I enjoy playing on easy mode, is because your decisions aren't heavily punished. Because by this point in the game, I mean, we're only at 1910 and we have 69 million in the bank, so we're allowed to make several mistakes without it really costing us a whole lot. Okay, all that looks good. Let's go ahead and get us a train, and I'm going to try to learn some from lessons in the past. Again, just checking in on some of these costs. I think we'll stick with the mogul. And cargo, we want the wheat, so we want gondola, or grain, I think they call it in the game. All right, we're going to use 60 capacity, and again, that might be a bit too much, but we'll find out shortly. All right, I need to set up the line, which I just remembered I've forgotten to do. All right, we want... All right, there we go. So we'll call this Surprise Wheat 2, since we're going to have 2 wheat routes for this. Now we can come back into our depot and get this guy up and running. There we go. And already you can see we've got a little bit of wheat out there. I think I'm just going to let this guy run and give this time to fill up a little bit more. In fact, we'll get a chance to see how much it's going to fill up. Okay, transport, of course, is at 0, obviously. Let's see what it says up here. Yeah, 100%. So we're getting everything that they are producing, and they're producing as much as they can produce right now. So next we need to check our capacity here. We're at 35. Again, speed is not a huge issue here. It's more about capacity for us. So we've got room for 35, and I would imagine, nope, not quite 35 to be had. So we don't need to increase our capacity just yet on this train. Yeah, we will be needing to very shortly, I would hope. Yeah, we're at 51 out of 60, and this continues to grow. So I feel like we're going to be at or around max capacity for this train as well as this other train. So we're looking good for the future there as well. All right, so at this point, we've got a lot going on, and this is where you really have to focus on all the lines that you've put in and having a good naming convention, because otherwise you're going to get yourself totally confused. I mean, I get myself confused, and I feel like I do a pretty good job of naming these for the most part. So what I want to do now is let's take a quick look at our city sizes. So surprise is no surprise that it is the biggest, since we are sending a lot of goods into there. So we're at 460. On the other hand, we come down to some of these others that we're not really doing any work for, in some cases no work at all, and they haven't grown very much, if any, since the beginning. Let's click on Seattle. Yeah, it's gone from 60 to 63. So it's going nowhere fast. So one thing I want to do in today's video, beyond these couple of routes that we've set up so far, I want to come back in to our existing, what do we have, 4, maybe 5 cities that we've been dealing with for the most part. And let's take a look at our public transportation. Let's get back into that some. I had mentioned in previous videos that at certain points during the gameplay, it can be many years before I get back to individual lines. And this is one of those cases. So we want to look at the bus route. We've got 6, and oops, that's not the one we want. We want the bus route, and you can see we are very close on capacity. And we're running, what are we running, 6 here? Yeah, we're right at capacity. So let's go ahead, and an easy way around this is, remember, we're still at horse and buggy. So let's just go ahead and upgrade these. We want passenger, and we could do a stagecoach, some more additional stagecoaches, or look at the capacity increase here. We go up to 9, and of course it gives you some more speed as well, but that way we don't have to purchase any additional vehicles. In fact, we might be able to get rid of one. So we'll go ahead and replace that. Now we come back into our line statistics and look at that huge increase in our capacity. So I think that's going to last us for a little while, should allow us to make some more money on this route. So I'm happy with that one for right now. Now let's come back down to our biggest city in Surprise, and let's see what we're looking at here. So we want the bus route, 21 of 32. Yeah, we're very close on capacity there, so I think we'll just do the very same thing and just keep it simple right now. We've got 8 vehicles. Let's go ahead and go to the Mac. So for a small amount of money, comparatively speaking, to what our budgets are running right now, we're now able to greatly increase both the speed as well as our capacity. So now we're up to 72 capacity, and I think we'll grow into that as well. But as always, we'll keep an eye out. All right, let's come down to Yonkers and see how we're doing here. This should not be as big of a deal. All right, so we're at 32 capacity right now. I'm not sure I need to do anything with that. Let's actually zoom in a little bit. Yeah, I mean, I'm not seeing huge demand. There are people waiting, but not tons of them. I love it when these windows pop up. Unfortunately, these are the ships, which still are incredibly slow and expensive, and not something I've had a great deal of luck with so far. Now, LA, let's see, we're up to 223 on the population in LA. Let's see how we're doing on our public transport. We're getting fairly close. Let's see, do we have any huge backups? Doesn't look like it, actually. Looks like everything's pretty much taken care of. So I tell you what we will do here. We'll do a little bit different idea here. So we'll do the LA bus. We've got 8 vehicles. Let's do 3 of these. We're going to sell these off. And then with what's remaining, we're going to upgrade those to the max. Okay, so it increases our capacity still a little bit, and of course should save us a little money because we have fewer vehicles overall. But you'd have to do a little math there to see the difference in upkeep between the Mack and the horse-drawn carriage and so on. But we're not going to worry too much about that. And now that we've got that done, I believe that's all of the ones we've been dealing with. Because we got Costa Mesa, and of course we did Surprise. We've done LA right there. Okay, I think we're all set there. So now what I want to do is let's start moving over to some of these cities that we haven't done anything with. Seattle, as we've already seen, has no growth in any of these cities where we're not doing any business. So we're going to look once again at a route that we initially talked about back toward the beginning of this series. And that is, we talked about the fact that there's a food plant here, but there's really no source of wheat very close. We've got one there, and then we had another one, I want to say, yes, there we go, right there. So what I want to do now is, let's actually get into that. We've got some better equipment now, particularly in the railways, to make this happen. So let's go ahead and do that. And now I need to see how I want to set this up. It's always good to keep pretty tight to the existing roadways simply because of the terrain and the different height values you might run into. So I think, I'm not sure we're going to need to run a rail network from the food processing plant into the city itself because of that short distance. I think we're getting far enough along in technology that we can just use the roadways for that. So I believe we're not going to worry about this too much. What I am thinking about is in the future we might want to connect up both of these sources. Or we've got another one over here. Yeah, we've got several options. Might run into a little bit of terrain issues there. Let's zoom in. Okay, that's not terribly bad through there, so not a huge issue. Got a ton of rocks down there. Let's see if we can make that one happen. I'm actually intrigued by this one. So let's go ahead and use the terminus. Wow, those fields are really in the way right there. Okay, there we go. And then, let's see, we're just going to have to use multiple stations here because I'm not sure I want to move this thing around the world in order to use a single station like this at it. I'll just use multiple stations. It's not a huge cost for us. And I'm going to try not to cross over the road here if I can keep from it. All right, that should be a good orientation. We'll back it up a little bit here to try to get a little closer. All right, let's actually do our road first. Then we'll make sure that we're in a good location. There we go. We got our highlight. Then we come back to our tracks. And let's see what we've got here. What does it do there? It doesn't look like it's going to be that big of an issue. Oh yeah, it does want to do a tunnel there. Actually, I kind of like the idea of doing a tunnel, frankly. Because that gives us something to look at visually. So let's just do that. All right, let's zoom in down here and take a look at what that's going to look like. Oh yeah, yeah, I'm here for that. That looks quite nice. I like it. Okay, so now we've got our setup almost complete. And again, since we're not going to have to worry too much about expansion over here, we can just simply drop this depot in pretty much wherever we want without having to worry about clogging up additional improvements in the future. All right, so now we need to set up our line, new line. So this is going to be and we're going to call this wheat number 1 because I estimate that we're going to have at least 2 of these. Okay, now we need to pick up. Now we don't have a good way right now of knowing what our capacity is going to be, so I'm going to try to go somewhere around what we've been using. So we're going to go mogul, and I can never remember. It's gondola, okay, for our wheat. I always want it to be the boxcar. So we're going to go around 60 capacity. And so then we need Seattle wheat number 1. Okay, there we go. So we'll, again, just let this thing go ahead and move out. And in the meantime, the wheat will gather up. And already you can see, I mean, we're at 15 very quickly. So that gives me hope for the future. All right, let's set up, for now, we're just going to use the road vehicles for this. And I'm just going to put it pretty tight over here. So we're looking for food, and the best spot for food, it looks like it's, if anything, as we expand here, it's probably going to be over in this area. So for that reason, I'm going to drop this about right here. And I think that'll be good for us. We're going to do new line. All right, there we go. So Seattle food, and then of course we need to grab a depot. We'll drop it over here on the side. And again, trying to stay out of the way of any potential expansion as much as I can. All right, and for this, of course, we're going to be using, oh, we've got a new vehicle. I didn't realize that we had got the Benz truck in here yet. So that's even better because it's much faster than the steam truck, going from 16 to 25 miles an hour. And then it's got a little bit of additional capacity as well. But it does come in at a pretty steep cost of about twice the upkeep. So what I'm going to do is actually only buy about 3 of these. And let's do Seattle food. Okay, so we'll let those guys get up and running. All right, so we got our first deliveries, and you can see it loading into here. First, it starts out in the storage, which, by the way, you can see visually. All right, we've got more technology. But here's where you can see all of the storage. You can see it popping into here as the deliveries are made, and then as it moves into the factories, the storage gets reduced. So it does give you a way visually to see this without actually clicking on it and taking a look at the information within here. Also, this guy's moving rather quickly. We've got a total of 9 in here right now. And even though we might not need that capacity, we're going to go ahead and expand this some. Because again, pretty cheap to do, and it gives us a little bit more room to operate in there. So already we see that this is up and running quite nicely. Now let's come back and look for some opportunities in public transport. So the first thing I want to do is, let's actually do the overlay for this land use. So we know that this is our residential up in the northern part, then the eastern part is industrial, and then we've got commercial in here. Okay. Of course, the problem we've got right now is that it's still extremely small. I mean, already you can see expansion coming in just as we're here. You can see this city expanding. In fact, have we made our first delivery yet? Yes, we have. Okay, that's why the expansion is coming pretty quickly. And there we go. You can see the expansion adding to our numbers. So what I think I want to do is let's actually take advantage of this. I want to complete this road network first and foremost. So let's go streets. We want city streets, and I believe they're using this one. This type of street. Yeah, it looks like it. Okay, so that'll complete that. And again, as we've seen before, it immediately causes the AI to do that. I see upgrades happening here. And the reason I wanted to do that is because I think, again, commercial, I believe, is going to expand into this area. And then industrial out here, and then residential up here. So I want, in fact, let's go ahead and do some more expansions. Put this about right there. Not exactly straight, but again, triggers more expansion. So I like that. And then that should allow us to do this. We're going to come in and split the difference. And then now we are going to get rid of a building here, which is going to cost us a little bit of money. But I think overall, this is going to be very helpful for us. And of course, you can see the buildings get replaced pretty quickly. So it's not a huge issue. So let's start dropping in some buildings. In this case, they're going to be stops. So I'm going to put one, we're going to put one about right here. I'm going to put one right there. I'm going to drop one here. I don't really like doing this because we're sort of going to have to turn and whip around there, but I'm going to put one there. Then I'm going to come around to this side, put one there, and I think one around right there, even though there's nothing there right now. So that'll give us a pretty good routes, I believe, for right now. Okay, so let's go ahead and actually finalize that route. So we're going to start there. All right, so a total of 6 stops, which pretty well circles the city. Again, not terribly thrilled about this area over here, but we'll make do as best we can. And let's see, I forgot to name that, so we'll call that one Seattle Bus. And for vehicles, now our normal process has been 6 vehicles because we have 6 stops. I don't know that that's really necessary here. Let's go ahead and just do, we'll start out with 4. All right, let's take a look and see what that's going to look like. So 76 seconds, and that will change as they get out on the route. Okay, and then as we've done in the past, I'm going to give it a second and wait. Okay, I see our first passenger, second one pop up. Okay, so now we're getting passengers that are popping up. I'm a little concerned about our demand. Maybe we have too many vehicles. Maybe I only needed 2 or 3 on this route, but we'll see. This city is going to be expanding. In fact, look at that. We were in mid-60s when we first started over here. Now we're over 100. So I think the demand is going to be there long term. We just might have to go through a little bit of a time of loss until we get there. So the main thing is, for me, we've got a couple of spots that are picking up in the residential area. That would be these 2 and eventually this one as well. Then we've got a couple for commercial, which is right here and here. And then as expansion continues, it might even be some on this one as well. And we've got a couple for industrial, which would be this one and this one. So I think long term, we're going to be just fine in this area. And already you can see we're up to 12, which is higher than I thought it was going to be when we first started. So we'll see if it ends up making any money after a little bit of time goes by. All right, so as we near the end of today's video, let's first take a look at our transportation lines. Let's look at the road vehicles first. Of course, Seattle bus, we just got done setting up, so we're going to have to give it a little time. But other than that, everything's making at least a little bit of money for us. So I like that. Now let's come back in. And the first thing I wanted to see was, what is our crude route doing over here in Costa Mesa? We added a ton of capacity there, and it has more than paid off. So this number is obviously going to fluctuate as you incur costs moving back and forth, but obviously this is a huge improvement for us. And I would really like in the future to be able to do this with multiple routes. But that might have to wait until we get into airplanes, which will be not too much further down the road. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to let this ride for a little while and check our capacity and make sure everything is working as we need to. So when we come back next time, we'll have a plan of attack. Do we want to expand? Do we need to make further changes to our existing routes? We'll find out next time. Thank you very much for joining me, and stay tuned for more Transport Fever 2.